it's been a few months since I actually talked about this program. I originally recorded like a series of videos talking about how I'm using Character Creator to remake my characters in general, to be able to have a faster way to do iterations and things like that on character designs. If there's something I don't like or something like that, that I can go here and there and tweak things here and there, to create a character. Um, since Character Creator 3's came out now, I've learned a lot from Character Creator 2, and some of that comes over to the Character Creator 3. But there's like certain things that with this new bundle, it helps so much more. I just wanted to make a video to go over that type of thing and all the stuff that has changed. Um, One of the biggest things in general is they've actually geared this release towards game development, which I like a lot. Um, like as you can see in this project here, I've actually converted this character from the base mesh to the actual game model. And one thing that you can notice is the fact that the poly count for the character is incredibly lower, for the export. The other thing is the bones in the body are more simplified for just working in a game engine in general. All the twist bones and things like that are gone. And just in general, it's just a lighter character to process. In general now, this is about where I was before with trying to actually make characters, to try to keep the character around 20,000 polys, with the clothing probably adding 10,000 maybe. But then I ran into places where I needed to manually delete polys from clothing and things like, well, underneath clothing, to try to conserve some of the actual, or should I say, prevent some of the poke throughs and things like that for the clothing when it bends and stuff like that. This program automatically takes care of that for me as well. It's just so much more that's even useful. Like, let me start a new project and generate. One thing that I found in the old version of Character Creator, when it came to scaling the character down, that was one thing that bothered me a lot, because the only way that they had the only way that you can actually do height back then was to take a part of the leg, shrink it down, part of this leg, shrink it down, part of the torso, shrink that down, and then what you had to do was export the ZBrush, bring it back in, and that was the only way you were able to shorten limbs and things like that to be able to get a shorter character. But there's a lot to edit when you have to do something like this. Now, what they actually have over here in the body, if undoing will stop destroying the system. Come on, there we go. Nope, one more. There we go. So I'm back to my main character. I don't know if they had this in the previous, but now they have it to where you can actually see the height of the character. But one thing they added in Character Creator 3 is the ability to bring down your height. I think I just saw it and I passed it. Full body. There you go, character scale. And now you can actually bring your character down to a smaller size without having to, jump into ZBrush and correct proportions and things like that just to get a shorter character or a smaller character, or a smaller build character. Now, things like arms and things like that you can still bring in here, but the distortion on the original mesh isn't as heavy to be able to need to do that much cleanup work in ZBrush. Another thing that I am happy for in general is the fact that they added instant LOD, which I'm gonna try to attempt soon with the characters I just created. But they added to where you can reduce your meshes down and actually export characters at different levels of detail and stuff like that. Outside of the eye array as well, that helps me a lot to like just visualize my characters before I put them in engine, because my goal is I want the character to look almost as good as they do in eye array in the engine. So that's some of my comparison. I know I'll never get to the standard of eye array because eye array is awesome, but I use that as my platform of gauging whether, you know, it's going to look as good as I want it to in the actual engine itself. Along with that, I don't know if I covered this before or not, but before, going from here to ZBrush was a nightmare. Like back when I did my original anime base from this character, it was really hard trying to get everything back into the engine. I mean, back into Character Creator without the bones and the shoulders or the knees being offset because of how I modified the mesh in the other program. Because I really had to bring in parts of the torso. I needed to like fix parts of the legs, get the neck thinner, get the head bigger, and especially around the eyes. If you mess with the eyes almost at all before you bring it in, your eyes will just be distortedly warped. I literally had to come in here before and try to see if I can get her eyes to be as big and as, you know, anime as possible before bringing it out the engine. So that way, all I had to do was just shape it a little bit, where these look, you know, almost like Battle Angel Alita movie size creepy. But I had to pretty much do this to be able to get eyes that was close to what I needed to, and then just modify it a little bit in ZBrush. But now that they have the actual Go Z inside the actual program in CC3, it's a lot easier to get your character to ZBrush, do heavier modifications to the actual base mesh to bring them in as a customized morph set into the engine, into the workspace, and then start building your character even more from there. So that way, you know, you can, you know, make the lips smaller. You can do stuff with the ears. You can do stuff with the eye shapes, and you don't have to worry about having to try to see if you can get close to the small nose or the small form factor that you want for certain things in here before going to ZBrush to try to make a small modification morph that you can add onto this giant stack of stuff. Like, I've even gone through and I tried to do, like, if I can open the old character projects, I've tried to play around with making NPCs. I forgot it's got to convert this project from CC2 to CC3, but just even doing character, like NPC characters at different heights, shapes and things like that was really hard before CC3, especially worrying about the damage to the mesh when it comes back in for, you know, the posing and things like that. Like, I'm actually not sure if this will work with the CC2 characters, however they're set up. Okay, so it does work. It converted it pretty well, actually. So it was like I had to get, especially around the shoulders and things like that, I had to play around with sculpting these general areas to make sure that it didn't look weird when the character stood up. I had to make sure that, like, adding in like muscle tone over here in the shoulders and things like that would actually work before sending it back, because I didn't know how messed up everything would be when it comes back here. Like, doing anything with the shoulders always gave me problems, but and Character Creator 3, it's not really that big of an issue anymore. But even when after I sculpt something, I can still come in here, make modifications, make the lips bigger or smaller, pull things in and out, make minor little tweaks. And that's something that I just wanted in general. Like, going back to the reason I picked Character Creator in general, I wanted a faster iteration on characters. I wanted to be able to make a subset library of like general type of characters to be able to just get in and just start working on a different character type. And then like after I got even into this new program, there were certain things that I wanted to learn more about, which was the skin and hair, because I was never that good at those aspects. I mean, like, this looks really shiny, but it doesn't have the little effects and things like that that I really wanted in my characters. Like, if I can bring this up. Before using Character Creator, I used Daz a lot for character concepts. And I pretty much fell in love with the... Sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time. I pretty much fell in love with the Ico and Hero character shapes that they had for that. And I based a lot of my character concepts around those two characters. And I've always tried to get kind of that same facial shapes and body types to being, close to that Hero and Ico aspect. More Ico than Hero, because Hero is pretty lanky. But the head shape in general was one thing I fell in love with, and I've always tried to strive to get to there. But one thing that I really loved was, if I can find it here, there was a skin texture back. There we go. This one, I think this is when I was playing around with V-Ray, but I think this one's really too harsh, maybe. If it will load. Okay. Yeah, the normal on this is really hard, but the thing about the skin tone is like they had the little, just like the little elements of like speckle and things like that that brought the skin out, and I really loved it. And I was trying to figure out how to get that working in Substance Painter in general, so I could try to see if I can get skin that was like that. And the other thing was I was trying to figure out how to get hair that was better in general, because before the stylized hair from like Miraculous Ladybug I fell in love with. I've had to try to find like screen captures and things like that so I can look at their hair, look at how the shine effect, how they got the textures in the hair and things like that to be able to try to reproduce that same feel. Because it's not like a regular hair card, but it's more of a solid mask, but that still has this kind of like bounciness to it. Especially in Cat Noir. I don't know if I can find his picture anywhere around here. I mean, close, but not exact. But it's just like they had like little fluffy elements to their hair where it just seemed solid on all sides, which led me to try to make hair that had like thickness in it, like this, that had like anime thickness on all sides, but it still didn't get me the feel and effect that I wanted in it. So that was one thing that I tried to improve on after switching to Character Creator 3 as well. I'm probably going to go over that more later when I go over the characters themselves that I made and how I do things now. Because one thing that I've also done is someone asked me while I was still using the base characters and meshes from this one, since they allowed, I guess they have some kind of like transformer plugin in Character Creator 3 now that lets you bring in a DAS character base into here, and they match their character mold to that actual import, and then you can bake textures and things like that to the actual mesh, of which the textures I wasn't really interested in because their basic texture is not really that good with the DAS characters. I usually have to paint my own, but just like being able to go back and use those shapes in general was one thing that I was really interested in, which pretty much led me to my first full test of this new plugin, which was to bring in just a basic ICO model, the Gen 3 version of it, and try to see what I can do with it. I need to go back one more folder. So, back. So pretty much from just like a general base import of the ICO, I just tried to, in general, just try to see if I can make some other character other than my own stuff to step outside of my safe zone. And around that time is when the Bowsette thing was a complete craze and everybody was making it. And I was like, I've never done anything like that, so I might as well try to see if I can get something close to a Bowsette. That, and I wanted to also try to see if I can do some stuff in Marvelous Designer. And that's where I pretty much got this Bowsette from. I tried to use my old hair technique to create the hair, to create, the different things. I removed all the eyebrows and stuff like that from the texture to create my own method of like doing the eyelashes, things like that. Mind you, I kept the other ones here to have like a little, what's the word? Stacked effect for eyelashes / eyebrows, whatever. But I learned a lot from this, especially a lot from trying to do stuff with Marvelous Designer. It was fun, and pretty much from that, I looked into the licensing that they have for the actual Daz characters, and technically the only thing I really need, because I don't need textures or anything like that, all I wanted was my old morphs that I used to play around with making concepts. And I mean, it's pretty much just $50 for each of the interactive licenses, but that gets me to the point of having some kind of base to start from to try to make all different kinds of character shapes and things like that. Mind you, I don't have a morph for children, even though I think Genesis has one for a child. But I mean, it definitely will save me time for trying to create all these different new shapes and things like that for, like, the different age range and body types and stuff like that. And that was pretty much where I started with the whole creation process. The only thing, again, that I said that I'm going to cover in another video when I go over the actual characters is I wanted better skin, because I like the Bowsette, I liked her renders and things like that. If I can find it, I think I closed everything. See, because I liked her renders and I liked how she looked, but I mean, it did look kind of toony, but I still wanted like better skin texture and better skin details, and that's something I'm going to cover in the next video. But this is pretty much where I started using Character Creator 3, testing out the Daz model in general. This is just a drop in of a general Daz model with already texture and just playing around with crap, and then just bringing in other models here to try out my old concepts, especially this one. This is a old concept character that I had for one of the third party members in my game. She's actually going to be the next one I try to remake, and these are like the old concepts that I had a long time ago with all the little Daz hair and stuff, just playing around. But I pretty much went from there to try to see where I could go to be able to get better details, better hair, especially better hair, because the method I had before was terrible. I mean, it's just, I did not like the end result. I wanted something with opacity, well, transparency, so that way it actually looked kind of like hair, and I wanted to keep it in the anime feel, kind of like this old hair from Daz, which I looked at how they broke down the hair cards to be able to make this, even though that was way too many polys. I wanted something close to that, but not exact. So I'll go over that in another video. But pretty much these are my end results from just playing around and getting used to the system, trying to get better at designing and creating in general, and getting the right tools for what I need. Being an independent person trying to make a game in general, it's just helped so much. I guess I'll stop it here and just pick it back up in the other video. Thank you.